Let's flip this furniture set using only spray paint. Hey everybody, welcome back to Furniture Flipping Teacher. I'm Lauren, and like I said, we're using only spray paint to flip these pieces of furniture. But of course, we've got some work to do before we can get to the actual spray paint, so let's remove some hardware. I found this set for maybe like $450 on Facebook Marketplace, and then I talked them down to $300, and it's an Ethan Allen set, so I was pretty thrilled about that because that means that it is like really solid. Probably solid wood. I don't think this is veneer, but it could be. But either way, it's super nice, heavy duty furniture that just needs a little bit of a new look because it's got this really glossy finish on it, and it's just a little bit outdated with these bat wing pulls. We're gonna give it a whole new look. I'm excited. The goal is to show you guys that you don't always need all of the fanciest tools to flip furniture. You know, I talk a lot about how the paint sprayer will give you a nice flawless finish, and it does, it truly does. But I'm excited in this video to test out how spray paint would actually look if you only use that on a flip. All right, let's move on to cleaning. Okay, I'm gonna be cleaning with Lily Moon's Furniture Prep Cleaner. I think you might know by now, this is one of my favorites because it does not require you to rinse, which is a big time saver. So this is a very dusty set. Otherwise, it's really clean. It honestly got dusty in our own shop. So we need to start by getting all this dust off. If I didn't get all this dust off and just started with sanding, it would start to grind down into the surface, make more sanding swirls than I want. And plus, I just want to start with a clean surface. Okay, now that I've got everything cleaned, it's still really shiny, but we'll take care of that in just a little bit. First, I want to fill in all of the hardware holes. I'm not going to be using the same style poles at all or the same size, so we want to go ahead and fill these in. And this is sort of like Bondo. It's called JB Weld Restore Wood Restore Repair Putty. And it's literally the same product. I mean, it's got the can and then it's got the cream hardener. Once you mix them together, it'll start to harden up really nicely. You've really got a short amount of work time, so it's important to kind of just mix up the amount that you need in smaller batches. That way you're not wasting the product and you're still able to use all of the product that you mixed in. So since these are kind of all here in a nice area, I am going to do quite a bit, but still enough that I know that like I'm not gonna run out of time for this for it to harden up. I just like to use a scrap piece of cardboard, squirt it on there, and then start to mix it in. And then once it's all that same lighter blue color, then I will go ahead and start applying it. The reason I like to use this or something like Bondo is because there's no shrinking. When it's dried up or hardened, it's going to really fill in these hardware holes, so you're never gonna see them again, and you won't see the outlines through the new paint job, which is really important because that's just not a good look. Sometimes you may have to do 2 coats depending on just like how big the hardware holes are and things like that. This kind of seems like it may need 2 coats because these hardware holes are quite large. All right, it is time to sand off this Bondo. It's had plenty of time to harden up, so I've just got a 180 grit on my Surf Prep sander, and we're gonna go to town. I'm also gonna go ahead and scuff sand the remainder of the drawers as well once I get the Bondo all smoothed out. This set is super glossy, and if we leave it as is without scuffing it up, then the primer and paint won't really adhere very well. So that's an important step really in every furniture flip, but especially when the surface is super glossy like this one. That was a lot of sanding, but the scuff sanding should be done. I think I might need to do a couple fill-ins with some more Bondo in the hardware holes, but other than that, sanding is finished, but we've got to wipe back all of this dust so we can prime. Okay, at the beginning of this video, I talked about how I was only going to be using spray paint to make these over. So now that we've got all of our prep work done, we can finally move on to that portion of the video. I am gonna start out with a spray primer, and we are gonna be using the shellac primer. It is a clear shellac, so there's 2 reasons why I wanna use this. Well, 3 actually. So the first reason is because it is clear, and since I'm gonna go for a darker color, I don't really want to prime this in white. If you're looking to go white, you could use something like Bin shellac based primer in the spray can. That's a white option, but it does the same thing. And then the second reason is because I want to block any of the areas that I sanded through the finish and expose some wood. Although I'm going with a dark color, there's still potential chances for bleed through. This will block that. And then the last thing is, since these were such glossy pieces, even though I scuff sanded, it's great to have a bonding primer as well, which this is along with the stain blocker. So we're going to go ahead Mask is important. This shellac is super strong, and whenever you're using any type of spray paint, it's important to use a mask. So put this guy on and get started spraying. After all of the shellac dried, I went ahead and wrapped all of the drawers. I saved you guys from having to watch that because it's a tedious, long job, but it just really makes the project that much more clean and, you know, just paying attention to those details so I don't get the paint on the edges of the drawers or on the insides. Now that we've got that all done, we're about ready to paint, but before we start with the actual paint, I wanted to do the new hardware holes so that I'm not going to be like messing up the finish when it's all done and then I need to drill hardware holes. I'm doing single knobs in each drawer, well, technically 2 knobs, 1 on each side. And so I'm kind of using the former dots, the former hardware holes as a guide, and I'm just measuring. They were a little bit higher than the middle, so I'm moving them down just like 1/4 of an inch, just so that they are directly in the middle across the board. And then all I'm doing is taking my drill and drilling it in. I'm not using my hardware jig because, again, it's only 1 knob, so really it's all about measuring and making sure that they're right in the middle. And that's all I'm gonna do for the rest of the, I don't know, like 30 drawers. It's time to spray paint. I'm a little nervous because I've never done spray paint on like a full-on piece of furniture. So we're just gonna go for it. I know that we need to do light coats, quick, fast, across the surface. I'm gonna try keeping it all in like the same direction. I'm gonna be using BEHR's premium chalk paint, but it is in the spray can form. And it's the color Classic Noir, and it's a matte finish. So it's like a black, and it'll come out in a matte finish, but of course we will do a top coat afterward. I'm excited, but nervous. So we're just gonna wing it and go for it. I'm gonna start on the nightstands. I've got the drawers out still. I'm gonna kind of like work my way around the bodies of them, do a couple of coats, and then I'll put the drawers in and then we'll spray them in there. I think that that will be the easiest way, especially since the drawers overlap. But I'm just gonna wait, let's do it. Let's see if spray paint can get us as great as a finish as like a paint sprayer. If I'm thinking right, it'll kind of give me like a lime wash texture. Oh, and I forgot to say, I actually got this idea from one of my fellow furniture flippers. Her name's Jessica at Evergreen Restorations. You can find her on Instagram. She did this with a pair of nightstands, and I was like mind blown because of how good they looked. So I was like, of course, I have to try it too. So shout outs to her, go follow her. We'll see if I can do this too. got 2 nightstand bodies and the tall boy body, all out of just 1 can of spray paint. I got 6 cans. I'm hoping that's enough. I think we're on the right track. I like how it's looking. Let's get the long one done. We got the first coat on. It is so stinky in here. So make sure you have a ventilated area and you're wearing a mask because it's a lot of fumes. Okay, we're gonna let those dry and we'll come back for coat number 2. It's been a couple of days, so we're back here in the shop and I am really liking the way that this spray paint is turning out. Honestly, when I left the shop a couple of days ago, it was pretty streaky and I was just not too sure what I was gonna do. But after coming back and looking, it has dried really nicely, and there are some areas where it's maybe not like as even as, say, if I were to spray with an actual paint sprayer, but I'm kind of digging the way that it's looking. It's almost giving me like a lime wash feel, which is kind of more of like an uneven finish, to where it's not streaky, but there's definitely a little bit of coloration difference. But I think that I really like that, and I've looked at other higher end furniture and it has, you know, looks like that as well. So we're gonna roll with it, especially with the spray paint. I think it's really difficult to get a really smooth, flawless finish. But now it's time for the drawers. So I'm gonna get them all inserted and then we're going to do a few coats of the chalk paint on the drawers. I forgot I had this trigger for my spray cans. I'll link it down below, but it's really a savior on the finger when you're holding the spray can nozzle down. My finger always cramps, and after using like 4 or 5 cans of this already, my finger was really in pain, and this helps. So you just pop it on there and you can spray it with any type of spray paint. I'm going to do the same method that I did on the rest of the pieces. We're just gonna spray it on the drawers nice and evenly and then work our way around to each piece. All right, first coat, check. So the first layer of the spray paint is dry on the drawers, and once you put a layer of like primer, not clear primer, but primer or paint on top of the wood that you've sanded and maybe repaired, you're really able to see any imperfections that could pop out. And I see a few areas where when I filled the hardware holes, it just didn't quite get all the way full. And so I'm just going to be taking some of this glazing spot putty. It's Bondo and it's just a 1 part. And I am going to go ahead and apply it on these little areas. This is great for like little pinhole repairs and things like that don't need a ton of repair, but do need a little bit. This stuff takes maybe about 10 to 15 minutes to dry up, and then we'll sand it back nice and smooth and spray on another coat of paint. It's time for the top coat, and I am not going to stray away from what I promised you would be in this video. We are going to be doing the top coat with a spray paint. So we've got the Rust-Oleum matte clear enamel spray paint, and it's got a 5-in-1 nozzle here, which I have not used before, but I have heard of it. And so the first one, you can do like higher output than normal spray paint. Number 2 is a standard spray paint. 3 is low output. 4 is a vertical fan, and 5 is a horizontal fan. So those last 2 kind of remind me of like what a true paint sprayer pattern looks like. And so I'm gonna attempt to do number 4. It's gonna be a vertical fan, so that means it'll spray this way. I'm gonna try that on the drawers and see what happens. I'm hoping that it doesn't ruin anything because I've worked hard and I don't want to see this hard work go to waste just because of the top coat, especially since this is the last step. But mask on and let's do it. I definitely like the spray pattern better than just regular spray paint. Okay, now that everything is all sprayed and dry to the touch, I am going to go ahead and take off all of the paper that was protecting the drawers from getting any overspray on them, and then we'll be able to put the hardware on. It's time for the hardware, and this is my favorite part because we finally get to see everything come together and become the finished piece. I chose these antique brass knobs from Amazon. I think that 1, they're super in style right now, and 2, they just help make this color more of a timeless piece of furniture. I've done a similar look, not the lime wash, and it was more of a true black. And I did that, and just the long dresser sold for $925. So I know that that is a desirable look. So I'm kind of thinking about past projects that I've done and how well they sold when I'm picking out new hardware and things like that. And these are just really, really pretty. They make it simple and got a lot of hardware to put on. So knobs are the way to go sometimes to just kind of simplify it a bit more. All right, here's the final results, you guys. This is such a cool project. I am so glad that I was able to pull this off using only spray paint. All three, the primer, the paint, and the top coat, all came from spray cans. And in my opinion, if you have, if you're not set on having a 100% flawless finish going into it, then I think that you can really achieve a fun look. This lime wash textured style look is really in right now, and I think that it was achieved pretty well with the spray paint look. I knew that it was gonna be really hard to get a streak-free finish, and so that's what I went in with the mindset of getting this look in the end, and I think that it really turned out well. Let's talk about some lessons that I learned with spray painting. I don't think that I will do this method again, but it is a good method if you don't have a sprayer and you just want to try something new. Maybe you can perfect it better than I can. There's a couple reasons why I don't want to do it again, and the main one is that since we work inside of the workshop, the fumes out of the spray cans are just insanely toxic, and they smell up this entire place. We were both wearing masks like the entire time that I was top coating and painting and priming and everything. So it's kind of uncomfortable. It gets hot in here when we have our garage door up. But if you have a more well-ventilated area, like if you're outside in your garage, that might be something that doesn't really matter to you. But just a heads up, you definitely need to wear a mask and safety gear when you're using so much spray paint. The other thing is that I probably wouldn't have done a 4-piece set with the spray paint. I think that if you're gonna try it, maybe try with like 2 nightstands or end tables or something on the smaller scale, because I ended up going through 9 spray paint cans just for the paint alone. So that kind of adds up. I could have definitely used less paint for cheaper if I would have just used paint out of a can and put it in my spray gun like I normally do. So let's talk about the costs of those things. So the set originally cost me $300. We went and picked it up from Facebook Marketplace, and it wasn't too far of a drive over there, but we had to take it out of a 2-story house and bring it all the way across the driveway. You guys know the drill. If you flip furniture, you pretty much are just at the liberty of whatever you come to the house and end up seeing. That's kind of how you got to get it into your vehicle to transport it here. It is an Ethan Allen set, like I said at the beginning, so I was okay with paying the $300 because I know for a fact that this is super high quality furniture. So the primer, I actually only used 1 can of shellac. It really goes a long way, so that is $12. And then the paint, like I said, 9 cans of that was used, and it cost about $10 a can for the BEHR chalk paint. So that was $90 right there just for paint alone. And then for the top coat, it cost me $21. I used 3 cans, it's around $7 a can. But I really did like the different options for the spray nozzle on those new Rust-Oleum spray cans. So check that out if you haven't yet. And then the second biggest cost of this project was the hardware. That cost me $80 because I have 48 knobs that I had to replace. And honestly, that was on sale. I got all of these hardware pieces for Prime Day, so that was on sale. So typically that would be a little bit more expensive, but I got lucky. I ordered enough on Prime Day and we still had them on hand, so that's $80. And then my miscellaneous costs like sandpaper, Bondo, tape, paper, different things like that all cost me about $22. So that is in for $525 on this project in total spent, which really isn't too bad considering a big bulk of that, more than half of that, is just the upfront cost of the furniture itself. And so that leads me to talk about what I am planning on listing this set for. There's several factors that I consider when I'm listing pieces of furniture on Facebook Marketplace. The main one being the quality of the pieces of furniture, and Ethan Allen is a high-end brand. I'm definitely going to name drop that brand in the description, and we'll have photos of the brand name from the inside of the drawer. I recommend that you do that just to show people like this is really quality furniture and it's going to last a long time. It's dated from 1987 and it's held up this long in great condition, so I can only imagine how much longer of a life it's going to get. And then the other things that I take into consideration is, how many people are looking for, like, say, a black set of furniture versus something like a green set or a like more non-neutral or color that may not apply or appeal to the masses. So black, I mean, that goes with a lot of different home decors, and I think that it is one of the most desirable colors of furniture, so I'm definitely going to take that into consideration. And then of course I'm going to take into consideration my previous sales on similar pieces, and like I said, I did do a black set with these knobs, or just the long dresser, and sold it for $925. So I've got to take that into consideration when I'm listing it. And so a 4-piece set, all of it's in great shape. I am going to list this set for anywhere from $2,800 to $3,000, and it's a little bit of a stretch for me, but I think that I can get that because of just the quality and all the things that I've listed. So that would give us a profit of anywhere from like $2,275 all the way up to about $2,475. So I'll keep you guys updated on this set and when it sells and for how much and all the other details. I hope you enjoyed this video and it inspires you to try something new. Go out and try the spray paint. It was fun, learned a lot of lessons, and I hope you guys did too. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the flip side.